Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the ESL Hearthstone Legendary Series. My name is TJ Osmond Cutie Sanders, and I'm joined by Frodan. How you doing, man?
It's a new day, but it's the last day of the Redemption Tournament, and this is where we find out who gets the 8th spot to the LAN. It's going to be exciting times once again, TJ. Yesterday was a very fun day so far. I've enjoyed all of this week of the Redemption Tournament.
It's been really fun. Yesterday we saw Roger. Early in the week we saw Trump and Lead Paint qualify through groups A through C of the Redemption Tournament. And today, like you said, we're going to find one more. You can see the players on your screen there. Kaldi, Tom, Limijux, Too Wet, Oskaka, and Amaz. Of course, we showed Lead Paint there, but since he qualified earlier in the week, he won't be participating today. So the matchup that he had, which was versus Oskaka, will not be happening. So we should probably take one more look at the format for the Legendary Series Redemption Tournament if there's still some people who are tuning in for the first time.
That's right. We're going to be playing Best of 5 Conquest format. We'll explain a little bit of that in just a second. Today's the last day. It's May 17th, and it's the last 7-player bracket. The winner of each bracket goes to LAN. Very straightforward, and the LAN's going to be happening in June 5th to 7th for $25,000. Now, the important thing to keep in mind is that today we have 6 players because one of the players that was supposed to qualify ended up, or sorry, was supposed to compete, actually ended up qualifying. That was Lead Paint 2 days ago. And so he is automatically removed from this bracket, meaning that whoever was matched up against him gets an automatic win. And I believe that is Oskaka.
Yeah, and of course, it is Conquest throughout the whole Redemption Tournament, as well as the entire Legendary Series. Conquest, best of 5, every player brings 3 unique decks. In order to win the match, they must win 1 game with each of their 3 decks. The winning player chooses a new deck, of course, and if the losing player can opt to stick with the same deck they just lost with, or switch it up. And of course, the whole thing is blind pick.
That's right. So, pretty much the same as we've been doing so far, but if you guys have seen a lot of the highlight reels from Silent Storm and his crazy plays to the qualification process of Lead Paint and his ridiculous Soul Fires, to watching Trump versus Savitz in the very end of the first day, we've had a lot of memorable moments. But today is also promising to do the same. I do know that a lot of these players are very strong, and I think Group D is probably one of the most stacked. People looked at Group A as potentially being really tough as well. A and D seems to be a good way to start and end the week, in my opinion.
Yeah, and as we get closer to that LAN Finals, we also want to take this opportunity to give a big shout-out to our sponsors for Season 2 of the Legendary Series. Plantronics and Gigabyte are helping us make a lot of the fun things that we're able to do here at the Legendary Series possible. So if you guys want to support us, and support those guys and let them know that you appreciate them being a part of esports and a part of Hearthstone esports specifically, then head to those links you just saw below and maybe purchase some Plantronics headsets, some Gigabyte motherboards, and let them know that you appreciate them.
Another way you can support what we're doing is to stay engaged in the conversation on social media, hashtagging HLS, tweeting at ESL Hearthstone, tweeting at AzumoCutie, at Frodan. Tell us what you guys want to see, how you guys are enjoying it, any feedback. Because this is one of the few things that ESL is actually usually doing and putting out on their own ventures and projects. So definitely help contribute and stay engaged on the socials.
And of course, we're still doing a giveaway. You can head to esl.gg/redemption series. Follow the instructions on the screen, and you'll be entered in a raffle to win not only some classic packs, but also some Plantronics headsets. And if you do end up winning, make sure you tweet out and let everybody know that you were the winner.
Yeah, I haven't seen too many people be really proud of what they won yet. They should be ecstatic considering that this is some of the coolest stuff that's been able to be given away for the season. So definitely get on that.
Yeah, before we jump into the matches, we actually had a chance to sit down and talk with some of the players that are going to be competing today and ask them about their run through the Legendary Series and what they hope to accomplish in the future. So let's take a look at what these guys had to say.
It's hard. You know, that feeling of actually winning a huge tournament. You know, that adrenaline that you go through. You know, I've had that happen twice before in my StarCraft and Hearthstone careers, and it's just there's nothing compared to it. You know.
Satisfied with it because I lost pretty early. I had a really great run through the qualifiers, and I expected myself to do better during the actual Legendary Series, but I didn't, and I want to improve on that this time.
One thing that I'm good at is I don't really get too salty about like bad RNG, so I don't really like tilt very easily.
And I tend to not make many mistakes. I think I'm pretty level-headed when I play, so I don't go on tilt when I ladder or play in tournaments.
Yeah, I can be anyone.
As long as I don't make any huge misplays, like I'm okay with, whatever outcome.
Yeah, I prepared, and I think I'm ready for it.
But I think I can beat them on a good day. Yeah.
I will win these. Yeah.
Mainly just, I want to bring something that's like my own flavor.
Seems like a lot of confident, level-headed players in Group D.
Yep, that's right. It doesn't seem like there's too many people rocking the boat with, the really flair personality of like getting upset all the time and super emotional. And that could work to their benefit as we are coming down to a high-pressure situation. This is the last spot before the last chance qualifiers happening next week, DJ.
Yeah, and for the players that are participating today that are outside of North America, this is their last shot to make it to a Legendary Series Land Final. So let's take one more look at the bracket for today to see exactly which matches we are going to be seeing taking place. First matchup, of course, is going to be Kaldi versus Tom 60229, who said in his interview that we just saw that he will beat everybody. Well, after that,
he will win. Yeah.
Yeah. After that, we'll see Limmy Jux, who we also saw, versus 2Wet, who this will be his second redemption group that he's participating in since he qualified for the Legendary Series twice. And then you talked about Lead Paint, who qualified for the land final early in the week. So he was supposed to make it, but since he qualified, Ostkaka gets that walkover victory versus Lead Paint. And Amaz and Ostkaka get those automatic seeds to the semifinals, so we'll be seeing them later in the day.
That's right. So it's coming down to the last opportunities for these guys. I'm looking for the first match, Kaldi versus Tom. These are two really solid players that's just, in the middle of the pack. Whenever you see their name, they're like, oh, yeah, they're pretty good at Hearthstone. And then you think about things like, oh, but, how are they able to make the runs? Or, have they had any significant tournament victories? Not necessarily. Kaldi's done well. He won that Ding It Invitational where he was able to get like a small win for like €1,000. Tom's won 2 qualifiers, done pretty well in Taiwan. Over on that side of the world, but he hasn't been able to translate too much in the West. But one thing for sure is that Tom is a warrior. He goes through every qualifier and gets pretty dang far every time. Like, I'm talking like top 4. And then like if he either makes it through or he falls short by like 1 round or 2 rounds. In a lot of ways, he draws similarity to Ostkaka, where it's, on the online playing field, he seems to do pretty well. And he's yet to have like a true breakout tournament victory, although Scott got pretty close, almost winning 6-3 Cup. Yeah.
And both these players had very similar runs through their Legendary Series weeks. They both finished tied for 5th place in their week, in their group. And they both had a very similar game score, with Kaldi having 7 wins, 6 losses, and Tom having 6 wins and 7 losses. Excuse me. Kaldi actually went on to lose against the eventual winner, Life Coach. Tom actually lost in the 5th place match to Roger, who ended up losing in that week as well, but qualified yesterday for the Legendary Series Land Finals. So pretty interesting stuff for these guys for their performances for their regular season Legendary Series week. And first matchup is going to be Warrior versus Druid.
All right.
Grimpage Warrior.
So it looks like we're going to start off with a matchup that will be a little bit tougher for Tom. Grim Patrons generally flip the board a little bit too aggressively for Druid to seize it back immediately. And we start off with a reasonable hand for Kaldi. It's not the worst. It's not the best. You generally want the card draw, but at least he has tools so that way he doesn't get completely overrun if his opponent had to innervate. Fortunately for Kaldi, Tom has no such thing, and he's not the exact happiest with that hand.
Yeah. Every time you have to hero power on turn 2 as a Druid, you're slightly sad. Wild Growth is one of the ways that you can apply a lot of pressure early to Grimpage Warriors, force them to use their cards inefficiently.
Ooh. All right.
Well, there it is.
I mean, he wasn't going to play Keep of the Grove anyways on an empty board. It's just too valuable against a classic warrior.
Tom's nodding his head like, yep. Quite a bit happier.
Yeah, he's a pro Druid player. All right, now you can start gaining the board momentum a little bit. Lotheb shuts down a couple of things. There's not really many things that many spells you play on 4 though as Warrior. Outside of, if he's at control, it's shield block or something, but in the Grim Patron, not unless you can, like, get good battle rage early on, or if your opponent wanted to coin.
Yeah. It makes the Lotheb a little bit tougher to deal with, just because you have to, like, attack into it with a weapon and trait in the Frothing Berserker, as opposed to, like, just using Inner Rage to try and trade in. So there is some benefit to it, but it's mostly for the body. It's mostly so that he curves out well.
Yep.
In order to challenge what's on the board.
Does he want to set up Death Bite so that way he can start getting better things with Acolyte in the futures? I think so. Grim Patron also on the following turn in case he wanted to.
Yeah.
Just that you give up your Frothing Berserker.
You can coin Whirlwind as well. You can play Grim Patron next turn, attack him with Death Bite, coin Whirlwind, and have 4 Grim Patrons on the board.
Was there any leeway in like attacking face with the Frothing and then letting the Lotheb trade in? Because that's pretty clear what the Druid wanted to do. Or is it too easy just to have it swiped and then?
Yeah, I think it's
then you have to double attack.
Too easy to remove it, and it's also one of the ways you lose in this matchup is by taking too much damage. Because like a lot of your removal is weapons. It's not like Control Warrior where you have shield slams as well and ways to gain health. So one of the main ways that you can beat the Grim Patron Warriors is by applying a lot of pressure and getting them in combo range before they have a chance to get big combos of their own. So he doesn't want to take too much damage.
That is a absolutely feeble turn to 6. Like, you just Keeper the Grove the face for 2 damage, and now your opponent uses Death Bite very effectively. Does he set up the Grim Patron here? He can go for a lot on the board already because he has the Whirlwind with the coin. And that already might spell the beginning of the end of this matchup.
Yeah, especially since he's used the Keeper. So that means he can't use the Keeper to take out like a 2-health Grim Patron. Because the only way that a Druid deals with a lot of Grim Patrons is if they like spot removal all of them. Like Keeper 1, Wrath another, and Wrath another. Or like Keeper 1 and then swipe the 3-health one and the 1-health one. But now it's going to be so tough because all he has is a Wrath. He'll also have Force of Nature, which could be pretty useful, but 2 of these Grim Patrons are going to be out of range of being able to be killed with Force of Nature, and that opens up opportunities for Kaldi to just spawn like a near infinite amount of Grim Patrons following a couple turns if he has more Whirlwind effects.
Well, I mean, Tom can drop minions that don't let the Grim Patrons spawn too much and force him to trade onto the board a little bit more. Drawing into scenarios, and Harrison, which is a useful card.
We've seen a lot of Harrisons over the past couple days.
Yes.
In a lot of classes. We've seen it in Warlock, Druid, Warriors.
Even a Swamp Ooze once in a while.
A Swamp Ooze. Yeah, we go back and look at Lead Paint's run to make it to Legendary Series Land Finals. His Dragon Warlock was filled with tech cards. Harrison Ooze, Kazan Mystic, double BGH.
How's the best way to deal with this Ancient of Lore? You're a little worried about the possibility of, combo. You can't just drop a weapon, take a little bit of damage, or like hit face and then just try to rush him down.
Yeah. You can attack him with Death Bite and sacrifice one of the Grim Patrons, like the 1-health Grim Patron. And that way you set up next turn to where your opponent is sort of forced to... Ooh, okay, he's going to use...
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah.
I like that. So using the Death Bite Death Rattle effect to create more Grim Patrons. That's a full board, right?
Indeed.
Oh, sorry, I forgot about the one that...
the casualty.
Ends up getting died, that's right. The thing about having a full board is sometimes cards like Swipe that aren't as bad anymore because there's just too many Grim Patrons that it won't spawn. But this is always troublesome. This is 18 damage plus the Fire Borax, so he cuts that down.
Whoa. It's still a pretty bold move to go for Harrison Jones when you're staring at 18 damage on the board. Especially considering the only other play he had after Harrison, if he didn't pick up an Innervate, was Wrath.
Well, that would at least still give him a chance, a fighting chance. And remember, he has combo.
Yeah.
And what would it tell if you just ended up going for like some guaranteed damage? Like if you charge this Druid Claw, put him in at 12, so that way at best he could like armor up, and then you combo for the next turn. It's not guaranteed at all. It's probably not even a good play.
Yeah, then your opponent only has to find 2 damage in order to kill you, which is
it's just too risky.
Really easy for Grim Patron Warrior.
Goes for the consistent play. Absolutely. Kaldi does not have the game-ending damage just yet. He has 12. He's 6 short. He can gain 2 more through the Gnomish Inventor through the Warsong Commander, but it's not guaranteed. Harrison's also problematic because of the combo. So if you want to play Sludge Belcher to be defensive, you could. You could also play the Gnomish Inventor, evaluate what happens, and then trade off a couple patrons, keep the board, and then still stay above combo range if you float 16 to 18 health.
You've seen 1 Innervate. Do you need to play around double combo?
Maybe at least the bottom line Innervate combo, so you have 15. But I don't think double combo is always something that you have to play around. If you really want to play around it, you play Sludge Belcher and trade the patrons, so there's no chance.
Yeah. This way he still preserves one of his patrons, but takes some damage off the board, and still plays around.
Yep, the Force Nature Savage Roar.
Yeah.
Well, this is a little bit poor. You might have to just use the combo trade everything now. And it's not going to be a point of killing anymore for his opponent. Instead, it's just going to simply attack everything here. But it does clear off the Grim Patron, or so he thinks. Until TJ.
The 2nd Grim Patron. Well, I guess it's more like the 12th Grim Patron.
Yeah, it's a 2nd Grim Patron that comes out here effectively on the card and controls state of the board, but still no rush, right? You can set up Armor Smith and Sludge Belcher, or you could start hacking away with the weapon because you know the weapon's actually going to be good damage, and the Sludge Belcher.
Yeah.
Either way, I think I'm in favor of using some kind of Sludge Belcher here to gain board advantage.
He doesn't really have proactive plays here. It doesn't have any way to get cards off the Acolyte, doesn't have any way to spawn extra Grim Patrons. Fire War Axe in the face can start putting on good damage, but it's blocked by Taunt.
Alright, so he just wants some card draw.
Yeah.
And he goes for the weapon. He's not afraid of dying to his Force Nature Savage Roar anymore. That is a pretty big defensive wall, though.
Yeah.
Sludge Belcher and Druid the Claw in tandem.
Yeah. Scenarios can backfire in this matchup. Just because the 2/2 taunts, unless you're using it as a plus 2/2 to all your creatures, the 2/2 taunts can be fodder for Grim Patrons. Also, that 2 damage is not really that tough for warriors to get through a lot of the time.
Right. A Whirlwind effect, for example, with Death's Bite can disarm it, and then a Frothing Berserker gets way out of control.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Frothing Berserker gets drawn, and Dr. Boom, unfortunately, a little bit too expensive for this turn. But he's still got the Sludge Belcher.
He's still got a lot to get through here.
Yeah.
He's got to find a way to get through the 1/2 Slime, as well as the Druid the Claw, and then whatever's going to come out from Tom. Tom might be on the verge of stabilizing if he can find a way to deal with this board. And if Kaldi doesn't have much card draw for the next couple turns.
Well, I have to imagine he's going to drop this big game Hunter, but then that makes dealing with Dr. Boom a little bit more problematic still.
Yeah.
And he has to go for the heal, right? There's no opportunity at all to go for a card draw.
No. I mean, he's got plays for the next couple turns.
Right.
So.
Now, the challenge with Dr. Boom, even though it's great, is that there's so many minions I think at that point, Cenarius just buffs 2/2 across all minions, right? Not
Yeah.
just 2/2.
Yeah.
Considering that not only does it create the stronger minions and like Ancient of Lore trades into it, but it plays less around. It plays less around Grim Patron, or plays more around Grim Patron combos. I mean, Druid realistically might be able to start swinging this around soon.
Yeah. He made it through a few of the aggressive pushes from Kaldi, which usually they come in waves. Usually they have one aggressive push with Grim Patrons, maybe a second aggressive push with Grim Patrons. And then unless they're drawn to a lot of their deck, they have a really big like lull, a really big soft spot where they're just waiting for additional pieces because they're using most of their pieces to buff up the first couple waves, like the first wave of Grim Patrons, the second wave of Grim Patrons, or Frothing Berserker. And then they're sort of just waiting on their card draw mechanics in order to find more. So this is the window for Tom to find a victory in this game.
Yeah, if this little slime wasn't there, I believe that would actually be lethal.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he's not able to secure that. Ends up taking down Dr. Boom, and now Warrior needs to draw into that execute. That is so crucial. Or Boom Boss need to do magical, wondrous things. Well, for starters, sniping that big game hunter that's been buffed would be excellent.
Yeah.
With the Boom Boss.
I mean, he has to, because there's lethal damage on the board.
Or if the Boombot can destroy the Druid of the Claw for 4 damage.
Yeah.
Either would be great.
He has to kill one thing from the board, or else he loses on the spot.
Yeah, hitting Cenarius or the face. Oh, maybe what if he just does 4 damage to the face? Let's do that.
Oh.
Ah, that was the worst outcome.
Oh, he can kill with the cool task.
Yeah, not the worst outcome possible, but still not preferable. Now it's a Savage Roar from winning, as well as another Force of Nature. He's got 12. Swipe would be good.
Yep.
Drake could hypothetically just fish to win the game, or he can go for the safe play, go for a Dr. Boom, and secure the board. Both are really powerful here. Drake to finish. Swipe it is! And that should be able to wrap it up, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no.
11 plus 5?
Oh, no. He's actually a little short.
Ooh, 'cause he can't hero power.
Hero power, that's
Yeah.
right. Ah, it's too bad. Okay, well, swipe the face. Put him down to within striking distance on the next turn.
I don't think there's really a draw here that we can get. Warsong Commander's not going to do anything.
Yeah, if it was commanding Chat Warsong Commander.
That'd be ridiculous.
That
If you
would
could
be
draw
nuts.
if you could draw 2 cards in the turn, and they just happen to be the perfect card. All right, well, Tom is going to take game number 1 after having a pretty rough start. Seemed like Kaldi was in a great position after getting a full board of Grim Patrons, but Tom navigated that really well. He's going to take a lead in this first match.
Pretty important win, I think, too, because Kaldi has Warlock and Rogue, and those 2 decks also can target the Druid.
Yep.
Which is a very big vulnerable point. I feel like Druid seems to be the class that people are targeting, or they just happen to have as a very good matchup against in Conquest, which if you single out a deck and have matchups across your entire lineup that's good against that class, then you win. And Druid seems to be picked a lot despite that. In fact, let's take a look. It's the 2nd most popular class today.
Yeah, Warlock. Every single player has a Warlock.
Everyone has a Warlock, but not everyone has Druid or Hunters or Warriors. Druid's the 2nd most popular class. Warriors the 3rd. Hunters the 4th. Tied with Rogue.
Not as much class diversity today as we saw yesterday. We're missing a couple. Missing Priest, missing Shaman.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look down again just to make sure I'm not giving out false information. But we have 3 Warriors, 4 Druids, 6 Warlocks, 2 Rogues, a Hunter and a Mage. Interesting that 2 Hunters.
Yeah.
Interesting that 2 people are only bringing Hunter. One of them is Limajux and a Maz.
I think Hunter is... People have been so adamant about how strong Hunter is. And I really am surprised that a lot of people aren't bringing it, especially with the popularity of Warlock. I mean, I guess Handlock can have decent matchups against like faster Hunters. maybe even the Hybrid Hunter, but Mid-Range Hunter, I think, just does really well. But we'll have to see how that's going to play out. We're about to jump into the next match between Kaldi and Tom60229, or as they call him on the streets, Dan.
That's right. Tom60229, for people who assuming that TJ's racist, is my doppelganger. We've established that, so it's okay for him to joke around like that.
All the information that Dan just presented you with came from Dan himself, so I didn't even see the resemblance until Dan pointed it out to me. That's how good of a Samaritan.
Well, you're a good person, TJ. Much better than Twitch chat.
Warrior versus what appears to be Handlock. So Kaldi's going to queue up the Grimpatron Warrior once again.
You think so? You think this is Handlock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. It's good.
I'm gonna go ahead and take a wild guess here and say that there's at least a 50% chance that this is Handlock.
What about the chance that there's a legendary dragon?
0. 0%, Dan.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you said what appears to be Handlock, and I'm like, well, I feel like there's nothing really else we could see that would indicate that it's not Handlock. It'd be like Mountain Giant's the big defining thing. Sometimes you see Twilight Drakes, and you could see, maybe like combo. You could see Big Game Hunter, same thing, combo lock. You could see like, Sludge Belcher is like, well, still, that doesn't say anything.
Well,
maybe he's playing demon stuff.
I don't see race, Dan, so I can't differentiate between Molten Sea and Mountain Giants. And Clockwork.
So you don't see color?
No, I don't.
Well, I feel bad for you. Watching all that HD TV and 4K resolution in black and white. It's quite the shame.
Yep.
Now, Kaldi has 3 weapons. Is that a little much, or is that okay considering that you can use some of it as burn?
It's a little much. Because hand diversity is actually pretty important. You need card draw is the big thing.
But you said you didn't see race. Now you want diversity.
Humans are diverse by nature, Dan.
They are. They are. This Twilight Drake is going to put out a lot of pain. But you can deal it with 2 strokes of the Death Bite.
Seems pretty gentle to call it a stroke.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe a chop.
Yeah.
Or a swing.
Or a stab.
A shank.
A swift hit.
A drive-by. Well, I guess he's looking for cool opportunities once again to activate the Death Bite before he ends up...
Blood and plunder.
Well, in case he needs to actually get some Whirlwind effects, but it doesn't look like it. Apologies, as a note was passed to me. The Battle Rage here ends up getting 3 cards. Pretty effective. Very effective, in fact.
Flood and Thunder.
Yeah, he's actually a weatherman. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Dread Corsair in his former occupation prior to becoming a pirate.
Yeah, I thought about it a lot.
It's kind of what happens in, one day you're just working a normal TV anchor job, just predicting news, and then realize, you know what I feel like doing today? I feel like pillaging some villages and stealing all their treasure.
Yeah. And meteorology is actually a really good field for a pirate to go into. It's a good skill set to have.
True. If you can read the weather, you can fare the seas much better. Yeah. Just ask Cherry Warrior.
Yep.
Do you know who Cherry Warrior is? He's actually a really good arena player. And he is basically a classical Viking.
Isn't he a part of one of the organizations?
Well, he does stream, and I believe he's about to hit, or he just hit, his 10,000th arena win.
That's a lot.
That is an insane amount.
How many arena wins do you have, Dan?
Across both of my accounts, NE and EU, probably like 2,000.
Oh, wow.
I used to play a lot of arena. That's how I got my collection as big as it is now. But I don't even have any golden cards because I'm casual.
I'll have to check after this how many arena wins I have. just so I can show you up. Or be shamed. One of the two.
You'll probably show me off. I don't have that. I don't have that impressive golden cards. You don't want to play anything that has 5 health that just gets immediately sniped by this Death Spite number 2, so the Twilight Drake seems preferable here. However, if your opponent has an Execute, he controls the board very commandingly, so it's a little bit of a nerve-wracking moment. Also, something important to note is that Kaldi does not have the most life available to him. He's at 14.
He's taking quite a beating over the course of this game. More only on turn 7. This matchup is super tough for Grim Patron Warriors because it's hard for them to find a balance between, 1, dealing with early threats, 2, once they deal with early threats, it's hard for them to muster pressure, and 3, once they start getting pressure, it's hard for them to make the final push to get through any type of walls that the handlock is going to put out. They only have limited amounts of removal with executes. A lot of their threat engines are from being able to bump Grim Patrons into sub-2 attack creatures with like Warsong Commander. One of the main win conditions here is to make large frothing berserkers on a single turn with Warsong Commanders and pushing in for like a single turn lethal. Like a 15+ damage frothing berserker to the face. But even that can be hard to do.
It's too idealistic just to attack and play Dr. Boom here. Like you're just going to be taking too much damage. Could be. Alright, so Kaldi ends up going for a really defensive play here. Bull Taskmaster and No Mission Bender. Tom has 10 damage right now.
10 damage and still some threats here. He's got Emperor Thorsten.
Thorsten might be really strong. Not because of the... okay, well, Lotheb also shuts down spells. If you're going to push for lethal, that actually makes a lot of sense, too. Considering that you still allow your opponent to respond. I was thinking Thorsten will allow you to squeeze in, like, a bunch of combos the following turn, too, for a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Lotheb does make a lot more sense, though, if you want to push for a win.
And we've actually seen this a few times where players have opened with Grim Patron Warrior and struggled to find a victory with it in their first couple matches.
Well, because people are targeting it, you know? It's one of those classes that you understand that it's so strong, which is so funny because we just had a discussion with a coworker prior to this about how Grim Patron is just too strong, and we're like, well, no, there's people starting to actually counter it. It's like, no, I'm so glad it's going to get nerfed. It's like, well, it seems in this scenario, Grim Patron can't even win.
Yeah.
It's just when you lose to it, you don't like the way you lose to it. AKA QQ more.
It's just when it first like bursted out into the competitive scene, it was new, and it just so happened that the meta, it was great against the decks that were popular in the meta, which was sort of like a double whammy. That's why people thought it was, or still think it's one of the strongest decks, and will probably still think it's one of the strongest decks until people find ways to deal with it. This seems...
yeah, I'm not sure if this ended up being the best attack, but it looks like Kaldi ran out of time just thinking about how much damage he could do. And in the end, he just needed to run this Frothy Berserker into the trade. That kind of stinks.
Yeah. That's a lot of ways to damage, but there was no other way around it, and that is going to be game number 2 going over
to Tom.
To Tom 60229.
229.
It's going to be a song
not every
made
day
about Tom.
when you meet a username who has more numbers in it than letters.
Yeah.
Usually you kind of end it with like, maybe you replace a letter with a number, like instead of Tom, it's T0M. Or, you know, instead of like the A, you type a 4, like Hani. But, you know, Tom went all out.
Cross as well.
60229. But at least Cross still has more letters than numbers.
Cross 7224. They like their 2s, the double 2.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Tom says his background is from his zip code when he was young, so it's like he wants to represent his hometown.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's really fun because now it's every time I see that number, I think about him.
All right. Well, Tom only has to find a win with Warrior now. and haven't seen what type of warrior it is. But if it's control warrior, then he's in a pretty good spot against the rest of the lineup here from Kaldi, who has Grim Patron warrior, rogue, and then I mean it's strong against those two.
He's switching. He says, you know what? If that's control warrior, I'm in big trouble. I'm going to just switch over to Handlocker Zoo.
He's going to have to beat it eventually if it is control warrior.
Yeah, this is not looking that good for Kaldi. He's got to eventually tackle down a win with that Grim Patron warrior, but looks like he's struggling, floundering a bit.
So when Kaldi first had his run through the Legendary Series, I talked with him a lot. And the main subject that we talked about was
life,
yeah.
Philosophy.
It really was.
Searching the 7 seas, finding the 7 Dragon Balls.
He's from Iceland, and we spent most of our conversation talking about American politics.
Really?
Yeah.
He probably schooled you, didn't he? Because he's European and he wears glasses.
He really did school me. No, so I did a lot of research on Iceland.
Like, I don't want to pay for Obamacare, and Kaldi actually
he knew more about American politics than I did. So what I did was I went on the internet and I researched as much about Iceland as I possibly could to try and one-up him. So it turns out he knows more about American politics, and Iceland in general than I do. But I do have a lot of random facts about Iceland now.
All right, so tell me the most interesting thing about Iceland that you know.
Well, I thought this was interesting. So this was a funny story. As I was reading it, I thought it was an interesting fact, but then I read on, and a lot of countries have this law. In Iceland, you can't spank your children. It's illegal.
Wow. Well, thank you. I'm not raising my family in Iceland now.
You shouldn't raise your family in Canada either.
And I guess we have to cancel our trip.
Canada is a lot more... oh, my God. Canada is a lot more specific. You can't spank your children between the ages of 2 and 12, and it has to be with your hand. You can only spank children if they're between the ages of 2 and 12.
No. Okay, so
and
no
it has to be with your hand. It can't be with sticks
you wish you were raising
or foot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what I was doing instead of prepping for Hearthstone. I was looking at random
You are
facts.
prepping for Hearthstone. You were doing this while playing your Patron Warrior.
Yes.
On the tablet, because you can multitask because you're a boss. Look at this early game draw. Starting to stack up a little bit against the handlock. Kaldi trying to find some ways to play and control the state of the board. He's got the Twilight Drake, which I've been coming around to the idea that maybe you can coin the Twilight Drake for a little bit more board presence preemptively against Grim Patron. I saw a few people do that. I don't mind it. In this scenario, it's like so much has been gathered onto the board, and that this Acolyte's going to get so much mileage. And he's drawing cards, executed your Drake, and he's going to be able to set up for the eventual Grommash finish if he even needs it. I mean, he realistically could also have a situation where the Frothing Berserker on turn 7 with a Whirlwind effect could end the game.
Yeah.
Emphasis on could, because there's a lot of tools in the handlock to make sure that doesn't happen.
And Kaldi's like, why does this match feel a lot harder than it did for Tom?
Right, than the other way around. When they literally just flipped sweet seats, right?
Yeah.
It was handlock versus warrior. And it's because it's a combination of things. One, Tom got a much better curve. Kaldi drew 3 weapons. And then Kaldi also doesn't really have the continual threats the way Tom did. So it's a little unfortunate. That's what ended up being the case here. Sylvanas comes out when there's 6 damage on board already. Emperor Thorson makes cards really cheap.
But it's also pretty easily traded into by Sylvanas. Makes him able to control what he steals.
Wouldn't you want to trade in everything first then? Like, Acolyte. Okay. YOLO.
Yep. Well, he does have potential
Power
lethal
Ragnaros
next turn.
compels you. Makes you do wild things.
So next turn, Whirlwind will cost 0, Unstable Ghoul will cost 1, and Frothing Berserker and Warstone Commander will both cost 2. So you can use all those cards, plus have 2 mana left over. And that's a big damage combo there, especially with multiple things on the board.
Right.
That Frothing Berserker can get 10 plus attack pretty easily, which could, like you said, end the game.
Is there any card that you want to steal specifically? Probably that Acolyte. Is there a way to guarantee it? Dark Bomb, Mortal Coil, the 2/4. No.
I mean, Armor Smith and Acolyte are both, because at this point you might want to start even gaining life.
Yeah, but the Acolyte's good because it disarms your opponent from drawing cards.
Yeah.
Oh, what if you Dark Bomb your own Sylvanas after you attack into the Gnomish Inventor? Nah, it's just a little bit too cute. He goes for the Steel Plate, takes the Gnomish Inventor, plays some kind of defensive card. Oh no. Uh-oh. Is that game?
I think that is game.
Yeah, there were 14 health and 1 damage right now. Each whirlwind is at least 3.
Each one's at least 4 because of Warsong Commander.
Okay. LOL. There it is. Oh, wait, no, he doesn't have enough mana to play. Oh, he does. Okay, because that Warsong Commander costs 2 now.
Yeah.
So just whirlwinds, and that should wrap it up. Brutal. Kaldi gets 0-3'd super quickly, and Tom 60229
Wow.
spanks Kaldi because he's above the age of 12.
And Kaldi rolls his eyes because he says, that would be illegal in my country, sir. But he realized that sometimes that just happens. Smile crosses his face.
Sometimes it breeds discipline.
Of course, Kaldi will not be joining us at the Legendary Series Land Finals, but Tom is going to move on, and I believe he will face Amaz in the semifinals.
Ooh, interesting. So
Later
the winner
on today.
between Amaz and Tom will end up getting a ticket. Amaz still, I guess, reps the Hong Kong, even though he does have that Canadian citizenship. Still qualifies mainly as a player from Asia.
Yeah.
And he looked pretty strong the last time we saw him playing. He did manage to barely fall against Reynad. And then Amaz still gets that bye here, and he'll be playing the next round.
Yeah. So next matchup is going to be Limijux versus Tuet. Now, Limijux we haven't seen for a long time. He was with us in week number 1, and he was one of the first players eliminated. So it really has been a very long
Quite some time.
Yeah.
It's been a month. No, 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 months ago was the week 1 of
And
Legendary
he's on
Series.
the last day of the Redemption Tournament. I didn't get to see too much about Limijux. Can you tell me a little bit about him?
He had a very poor performance. He
Well,
was
outside of that. But
yeah. He went 1-6, and
Ooh,
he didn't
yikes,
we didn't really
the
see
Frodan
much of
score.
him. Yeah, we didn't really see much of him because he just got eliminated in his first 2 matches. So he talked about it in his interview that he had a really good run through the Open, which is how he originally qualified, but it just didn't translate. So he's had a long time to reflect, and we'll see if he's going to be able to pull it through. But Limijux versus Tuet, the second match of the day is going to come right after this break.